Vanakkam again. Imagine someone in 19th century Britain witnessing the rise of coal, or someone in early 20th century seeing the growing domination of fossil fuels. Both of these changed the way humanity interacted with itself, as well as the planet completely, socially, economically, and politically. Over the past 3 decades, we too have had the front seat for one such transformation. Computers in general and all the technology that came with it, with artificial intelligence being the latest. We can't deny that they have fundamentally changed the trajectory that we as a species have taken. As with any new technology, there is fascination and fear. While all the many implications of new technology are debated, this one about artificial intelligence is different. Unlike when coal and fossil fuels took over the world, we now have a better understanding of the environment and climate change. The debate about AI should be an environmental one as much as a social and economic one. Before we get into it fully, we need to get a few things clarified. The global systems we have now also have a significant environmental effect. Current systems of cloud computing, something that most of us use on a daily basis, either fighting demons or saving cat pictures, also employs similar physical infrastructure as that required by AI. I'm not going to be talking about Bitcoin in this video. Whether you're committing large-scale financial fraud or buying biryani in Chennai, it too has an escalated environmental cost. For the sake of this discussion, I'm going to be talking about the amorphous bunch of things we collectively call artificial intelligence. As a concept, energy is at the center of the fight against climate change. It's the environmental effect of the production of this energy, from driving cars to industrial manufacturing, that has led to the current increase in greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. For the specific case of AI, let's leave the total energy consumption of humanity behind and move on to the production and consumption of electricity. Evident from this chart is the very high prevalence of carbon-based sources of energy. While there has been an increase in renewable energy over the past couple of decades, it's nowhere near meeting even the current needs of the world. To realistically try and prevent the acceleration of climate change, we need to be converting this into renewable as soon as possible. A longer-term sustainable plan must include reducing the global demand for energy as these renewables catch up. Right, now let's get to the AI part. This is actually a tough task, considering that there's so much overlap in the infrastructure involved. Most large tech companies are cryptic about the exact amount AI takes for itself. The best individual estimate we have currently is that the same query in ChatGPT is 10 times more energy intensive than the same Google search. We have a best global estimate from the International Energy Agency report from 2024. Here they estimate that the total usage from cryptocurrencies and artificial intelligence is about 2% of the total global energy demand. The problem is that data centers are set to increase across the world at a rapid rate. There are currently over 8,000 data centers in the world, with a third of them being in the US. We can see the impact that this has had on the electricity grid there, with over 4% of the energy production of the country going to keep these fed. As the global capitalist order embraces the tech companies even more, the rest of the world is set to see a wave of data centers being built, in the imperial core and beyond. The agency forecasts the growth of the energy demand from double to 10 times by 2026 and 2030. Currently, data centers use about 460 terawatts per year, and if they were a separate country, would rank 11th in the world, just behind France. With the best models we have, by 2026 this would reach 1,050 per year, mainly driven by the energy needed for generative AI. This would make data centers the 5th highest consumer of electricity, just behind Russia and ahead of Japan. So where are the data companies going to get this extra energy from? Everywhere, essentially. Currently, the data centers are causing large issues to existing electricity grids in countries. Straight away, we can see the impact on climate. As unable to meet this demand, countries are delaying the switch to renewable sources. The next method is the tech companies making their own electricity, from renewable sources or nuclear power. It will be interesting to see how this plays out in the long run, considering that US foreign policy has spent decades threatening anyone even with a sniff of nuclear material. I'm sure they don't mind their oligarchs having their share of radioactive material, however scary it seems to us. The computation required for AI to work ends up generating a lot of heat, which needs to be cooled down for proper function. Here is where water comes in. Like energy, it's quite hard to attribute a specific amount of water per single AI query. The best estimate we have is about 100 ml of water for every 1 to 10 prompts. Compare that to Google search, which uses about half an ml for one search. At a global scale, the data centers use about 1.1 billion cubic meters of water, which is predicted to rise to about 6.6 billion cubic meters by 2027. This places it higher than 58 countries. Like energy, we need to ask the question, where is this water going to come from? Global water systems are already being strained, and this is something that will worsen over time. Take a look at this map of data centers from around the world for perspective. I'm sure the data centers were planned with the famously heavy rains in the Sahara, Arabian, and Thar deserts in mind to provide water. My heart breaks looking at Chennai. While not flooding during the monsoon, the city chronically faces a water shortage, and around it are 25 data centers. While this may seem like something inconsequential, the conservation and rational distribution of water is essential in the fight for climate justice, and the scale and the thirst of AI is only making it worse. While there is a growing base of academic work and popular media coverage showing the environmental impacts of AI, global governments seem to be taking it very lightly. It actually fits very well with the global capitalist system. Let me tell you a kutti story. Chandrababu decides that the thing Andhra Pradesh lacks the most is a large data center. He approaches Google to create the largest data center outside the US, giving a range of concessions. Sundar agrees to do this with the help of Gautam and promises to power it using clean energy. Gautam was accused in a bribery case regarding the provision of clean energy in Andhra Pradesh last year. The deal for the data center gets signed with much fanfare from the mainstream media, even as civil society groups speak up against the environmental impacts of the data center. Sundar gets to harvest more of our data for cheap and gains accolades for using clean energy. Gautam provides this clean energy and gets much richer. Chandrababu and his backers from Delhi fool everyone and gain a ton of political mileage. The people of Coast Andhra, whom none of the above care about, get stuck with a shaky electricity grid and water scarcity. While this is going to become a reality, we still need to contend with the arguments that they make regarding the energy use. I'll be trying to address two arguments here. The argument here is that as time passes, data centers will become more efficient and then high energy and water use won't be a problem. There are a few issues with this argument. To start with, while this seems to be something to look forward to in the future, the environmental cost is too high to be bearing now. Like we discussed in our video about the specter of climate change, we need to be cutting down emissions and making rapid transition to clean energy as soon as possible. Anything that delays this is a threat. Even if we will get better energy usage later, all the coal we burn now generating slop will remain in the atmosphere for generations to come. Secondly, there is no real trend to show that data centers are getting more efficient as of now. While few projects here and there are getting better, on the whole, chips that do the computing are getting more energy intensive. As long as there are places which will sell the energy and land to tech companies for cheap, there is no real reason for them to make the centers any more efficient in energy usage. The third problem is Jevons paradox. In short, Jevons paradox says that as a resource becomes more efficient to use, instead of the total usage decreasing, in certain conditions it tends to increase. Let's put this in perspective of AI and data centers. The current limiting factor for the large-scale propagation of data centers is energy. If energy use decreases, there is surely likely to be more data centers built. Let's add to this the argument of induced demand. This essentially says that as supply increases, through more and more data centers, the unit price would fall and demand would increase. While this forms the economic background, in the current scenario with AI, we are facing something much bigger. The demand in this case is not just induced but pushed down our throats. Even with the current constraints, tech companies are quick to put AI into everything, whether it is needed or not. As these companies race to quickly grab up profits, we as users are at a point where we barely have a choice in using AI. AI becoming more energy efficient will only result in companies pushing more of it because it is cheaper. The second argument I want to address is that of AI saving us from climate change. The theory here is that the more we push AI now, the faster we will reach an AI that solves climate change. While Asimov surely agrees that this makes sense, he didn't predict how much the neoliberal machinery would grow. The invisible hand will only train and deploy what brings American oligarchs the best returns. Capitalism doesn't care about the people or planet, only profits. In any case, the answers to climate change are not just technical in nature, they are social and political. Activists and academics have already tried charting the paths we need to take to prevent complete collapse, and at the center of them is justice, not faster chips. As the air around data centers clear and we get better measurements, it's safe to say that AI uses a lot of energy and water. Given the quick rise of the tech oligarchs and the absolute power they enjoy around the world, it's highly unlikely that we will be able to do anything to stop the cycle without really shaking up global capitalism. In the world of techno-feudalism, where a small bunch of elites run amok with technology, political leaders are lining up to bend their knee. Any meaningful change towards preventing climate catastrophe should then start with the overthrow of capitalism. Nandri.